Hello and welcome to the third and the Don Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always. We are winding down the NFL season. We only have the Super Bowl left. It's been a fun ride, Cecil. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It has really been an interesting ride. We got an interesting matchup to preview, and we got some stuff to talk about championship weekend still.
Absolutely. So, as a reminder to everyone while we get started, we will not be back next week to recap the Pro Bowl or talk about the Pro Bowl at all, unless we come up with another reality TV show idea like Pro Bowl House. We'll be back after the Super Bowl to recap after this week. But let's get started, Cease. We have some more coaching changes to get to. There's three more slots that have been filled. The only open job right now is the Washington Commanders, who seemed intent on getting Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions. Johnson decided to stay in Detroit to win a Super Bowl, but maybe he's thinking he can get a better job next year too. But that's obviously a risk he's taking there. But let's go with the first head coaching position that was filled this past week that we missed was Raheem Morris. Got hired by the Falcons. He was the interim coach for the Falcons before. Before that, he was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach for a little bit. Currently, he was the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator. Got a lot of praise from a lot of the stars there. I think Jalen Ramsey even tweeted out that he's like the best coach in the business. So, what are your thoughts on Raheem Morris to the Falcons?
I'm gonna give it a B. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think it's anything that's gonna rewrite the record books or anything. I don't think his time as head coach in Tampa Bay was really that great to begin with. Um, I just think it's kind of a very like it's not a bad signing. I think he's done a lot with a little on the Rams defense, but I'm not wowed by the hiring, and it's kind of a weird hiring for Atlanta, who really probably needs an offensive coach to get a good quarterback to really try to use some of the weapons they have on offense. So that's kind of the thing with me is they need offensive head coaches are what kind of people want. It's kind of what's moving the game forward as of recently, and it's just an interesting move for me. So I'll give it a B.
Yeah, I think like a C, C plus for me. I think he's a very good defensive coach. I think he can teach it, but the fit's weird because they need to figure out the quarterback situation in the offense, and getting a guy who's a defensive genius may not be able to get that done. Now, if he can step into that role where he's not calling plays, maybe that helps. But I just don't understand how this fit comes in. It's kind of like you were saying. Cease, next one up, we have the Carolina Panthers. They obviously fired Frank Reich, 9 games into his tenure or something like that. David Tepper has no chill. But he got fired. They hired Dave Canales, who was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, helped them get to the playoffs. Actually did a really good job, I think, with Baker Mayfield and that offense this year. So what are your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers going in division to get offensive coordinator Dave Canales as their head coach?
I'll give this one honestly, probably a B for me too. I think Dave Canales did really well this year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there's some risk that we've seen a lot, especially with guys who've done it for a year and then become head coach. It's kind of a weird, like it just doesn't feel like that much time. And there's been a lot of coordinators. If everyone wants to remember good old Freddie Kitchens back in the day for the Cleveland Browns, I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But reality is, this kind of stuff has happened before. Where I mean, the guy kind of was a no name before this year. Obviously Baker does really well, and again, like I think he did well, but I think he's getting a lot of credit for putting pieces together that probably should have worked. It's just a lot of people in the NFL have been kind of overlooking guys. So I don't think it's bad. The problem is we might not even get a chance to tell if it's a good or bad signing because the reality is who knows how much time the Panthers are really going to give him. But the reality is he made it work with a not ideal situation last year. So let's see if he can rope together everything with the dysfunction that is the Carolina Panthers.
We got a Freddie Kitchens reference here. Oh boy, that's a Pro Bowl House Mount Rushmore character right there with Ben McAdoo and Rex Ryan. So the Ryan brothers really, but I think this is a B hire because I like what he did. I think he's a good coach, but I would have liked to see them go for like one of the more established coaches because this is going to take some time with this rebuild. Bryce Young didn't look the best this year. They don't have that first round pick this year. Go with someone like a Belichick, who's going to take some time to coach well and maybe take away the personnel decisions from him. Go with someone like a Pete Carroll, who actually did interview for some of the other jobs, even though he got moved to the Seahawks front office. Go with Mike Vrabel, even. Just anyone who has been there and gotten the most out of rosters that maybe aren't the best. With Dave Canales, he's going to have a first-time head coach thing where he's going into trying to coach the offense probably and manage all the expectations and get players like Bryce Young to play at their best while all not having the most ammo in the chamber, which can be tough. He also, via Pardon My Take podcast, I found out he wrote a book with his wife 2 years ago about marriage and admitted to having a pornography and alcohol addiction in the past. Which just seems really weird to write a book about that, but more power to him. More power to him.
It's all in the open. There's no dirt to find on this guy because it's already out there.
That's what we should do. We should write the book. Hey, we like to gamble, something like that, and it'll be out there for us. All right, the last one, Cease, we got Pete Carroll was moved to the front office for Seattle. Now, obviously, like I said, he already interviewed for other jobs. He seems like he still wants to coach, and he might be the oldest coach in the league, but he is the most energetic still to this day. So it was a little bit of a surprising move. That the Seahawks front office asked him to move out of the head coaching role. They hired Mike McDonald of the Baltimore Ravens. He was a DC there, did really well. Also had a very talented defensive roster over there too. So it's a little bit of what are we getting out of this guy? So what do you think?
I'll give it a C plus. Here's why. I don't think Mike McDonald is gonna change this team like to something better than what Pete Carroll was getting out of it. Because I think a lot of it was, Pete Carroll wanted to have a really good, strong defensive team. That's what Mike McDonald is going to want to do. I think Mike McDonald has proven to be a really good defensive coordinator. But again, it's another one where offense can kind of be very important to a team, and it's something that's a premium in this league. And honestly, and we'll get to it in the recap, after what I saw last week, I'm not as sold on Mike McDonald's system as I was before, because I think they got kind of taken apart last week, and that's kind of a weird thing to see right before you get hired as a head coach. Is just to watch your defense kind of get kind of torn apart a little bit. So we'll see. I think it's one. They went for a guy who basically is going to bring you the kind of the same thing Pete Carroll did. So it doesn't really make sense to me that they moved on from Pete Carroll in that way to bring a guy who really isn't going to bring that different of a philosophy than Pete Carroll already did.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think the grade is like they got a guy who's proven to be a pretty good coach, like maybe a B higher, but like why'd you force Pete out? Like Pete's an A. Pete's like not just like did he do so well at USC with his time there, winning national championships. He's done well in the pros since he came back. He's won Super Bowls. He got a lot of. I remember like a couple of years ago, I think we both thought they were one of the worst rosters in the NFL, and they ended up making the playoffs or whatever. Geno Smith last year too. So I think the thing that hurts Mike McDonald is that he has to live up to being Pete Carroll when Pete Carroll was clearly pushed out and not like leaving on his own volition either. So I'll go B, but it's not a great situation. I wish Pete Carroll was coaching. I wish Bill Belichick was coaching. I wish Mike Vrabel was coaching because I think they're all three really good head football coaches, and I think the league is better with them. So we're going to see maybe a lot of guys fired next year, and it's going to be like, okay, these three guys are good candidates. Ben Johnson's a good candidate. Bobby Slowick of the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, a good candidate. They got to fill all these spots. It's just a lot. There's 32 spots. That's all you get. So it just makes me a little bit upset. All right, let's go to our recap of the conference championship games. We'll start it off with the AFC Conference Championship. This one was first on Sunday. We had the Chiefs winning 17-10. Now, Travis Kelce had a pretty big game in this one. 11 catches, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. Big players show up in big games. Taylor Swift was there having a good time. Cecil and I really don't mind if they show Taylor Swift for, I think it was like 0.46% of the screen time in an NFL game. That's not that bad. In this game, though, Cecil, the Ravens, it's not the best weather in Baltimore. They're trying to throw the ball around, trying to prove Lamar Jackson can throw the ball. We've seen it all year. He's going to win the MVP. They didn't run the ball. The running backs had 5 carries. Lamar had 3 designed runs. This is what killed them, in my opinion. The game was never out of reach the whole game until the end of the fourth quarter, and they decided to just keep on passing the ball, and then they made some stupid mistakes with Zay Flowers with the taunting penalty, which shouldn't have. I don't really like taunting penalties, but you can't do that. So it was a weird game because I think the Ravens had the better team, and I just think the game plan really didn't come through.
Yeah, I think it was really kind of a meltdown by the Ravens in this game, which is sad because they should have won this game. You and I both picked them. We thought, they had a talented roster and they could cover a spread of, 4 points up to, 5. So that being said, I agree with everything you said. They didn't run the ball. Against the Texans, they ran the ball. They used the running backs, and more importantly, too, they let Lamar run the ball more. Lamar was like unchained 2 weeks ago against the Texans. Like they just let Lamar ball out and just do whatever he wanted to do. In a way, he used his legs, scoring touchdowns. We haven't seen that since pretty much like a year ago. Like in this new offense, he's pass first, and I like that. I like that they're using that, and they have more weapons on the outside. But they let Lamar just do what he does best, and that's be the dual threat he is. And I thought we were going to see some more of that in this game. I especially thought we'd see that in the second half when they were down the whole time. And it was just this weird, like, I don't know what Todd Monken like got in his head, but the reality is we were watching this game. There's times where, that's fine. You want to continue to try to like pass, keep it multidimensional. But there were like you looked and you're just like 3 seconds and Lamar's still sitting there and you're just like, Lamar, just run, man. Just run the ball.
Mhm.
Like you can literally see the opportunity to just get out of there and get 6-7 yards before somebody touches him. And the reality is, this is a playoff game. Like, if it's a playoff, I get it's a regular season, you're trying to make things work, trying to conserve yourself, but this is do or die, man. This is a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Take the if the offense isn't getting it done, the plays being called aren't getting it done. Get it done yourself. Like that's people that are all time greats, Hall of Famers a lot of time. That's what we remember for them is these playoff appearances and these playoff stats they put up. I know regular season's great. You can be in the Hall of Fame as a regular season, stat king, 100%. But when people talk about their all-time greats, who their favorites are, they remember these playoff runs where somebody, just took it into their own hands because that's sometimes what it takes. Because every team is good. The Chiefs are really good. The Chiefs are one of the best passing offenses, one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL, but you don't want to run the ball. It was mind-boggling. Zay Flowers, I've just never seen quite this just I don't want to call it stupidity. I'd say just lack of awareness and maturity.
Mhm.
Um, I get it. I get you make that big play. I get you guys are getting frustrated. Why get the taunting penalty? Like why be that stupid? Like this is and the thing about this too is this is supposed to be a John Harbaugh team. John Harbaugh is supposed to be a good, disciplined coach. Why are guys getting taunting penalties for 15 yards in a playoff game? And then why why are they having the lack of situational awareness to try to stick a ball out when they're 2 yards from the end zone with reckless abandon, just hoping they get to the end zone?
Mhm.
Like Zay Flowers has got a lot to do with this loss. I know it's not any one player, and I feel like a lot of what happened was born out of frustration for what was going on in the game for them. But man, like you can talk about a guy who we'll talk about an epic collapse of just awareness. From the taunting penalty, where they would have had it the one, they could have probably done anything. You have Lamar Jackson, your quarterback, you run it, pass it. He could just run it himself. Instead, you're at the 15. You then make a pretty good play, and you just again the 2 yard line, man. Just take it, control the football ball because it's about turnovers in these playoff games. And then he cuts his hand on the sideline, and I'm just like, it's like throwing a temper tantrum. Like I get it, I get why he's upset, and emotions are high in these kind of situations, but you can't like just it just looked like a complete debacle. And there was an ugly Lamar interception as well down the stretch.
Mhm.
I mean, that was literal triple coverage, and I just that's bad, man. Like it's I like Lamar. I think he's a really good quarterback, but this game doesn't help his legacy at all. His reality is he didn't use his legs the way he could have and really change this game. He didn't use it the way he needed to. He didn't take care of the ball. He obviously had that fumble, which that sucks, and maybe you don't see the guy coming around the edge. That's fine, but that interception is just that's gross. It's a bad one, and I feel bad that again we're going to be back to the Ravens are good, and that's great. I think they're going to be around. I think they're going to be a playoff team next year. But do I pick them? Like I don't know if I can ever believe in the Baltimore Ravens because the reality is they were the better team. They have a really good quarterback. I know Mahomes is the best quarterback, but the reality is their offense choked at the biggest moment. Their biggest star, who some people try to argue is the best quarterback in the league sometimes in Lamar, who I think is really good, top 5 guy. But I mean, you can't have a game like this and say you're like in that upper echelon like that, where you're like competing to be the best quarterback in the league. You just can't. And that defense too. I mean, offense was a lot to blame, but the reality is you didn't stop Travis Kelsey for a second. You didn't do anything. Like Travis Kelsey was just over the middle over and over. You were getting embarrassed. So yeah, there's a lot of blame to go around this game if you're the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a tough offseason, and the question is going to be, I mean, you got a lot of guys who are vets on small deals, and that's been working out well, but what are you going to do to get over the hump? And how do you get over the hump? Because this is a pretty devastating way to lose in such fashion when this is really was kind of your window, your big opportunity to show everyone that you're your team to be working with, and you can kind of slay the dynasty, and they did.
Yeah, so maybe the Bengals focus on tight end this offseason. Maybe that's a way to exploit the Ravens defense. It's something to think about. Also, you're right. Like Lamar, like not just the design runs, but he didn't scramble as much as you would like in this game. He was always like 2 or 3 seconds too slow to run with the ball after the pocket broke down. The Chiefs had Willie Gay out. Willie Gay was the guy who was supposed to be hit the spy this game. He wasn't playing. Like Lamar theoretically could have run for a lot more yards just by scrambling too, and you can't like you can say like regular season. Let's not run Lamar too much. Let's kind of save him for the playoffs, or let's save him for later. Well, then use him in the playoffs because that's what makes him great is the ability to run. We always talk about this in quarterbacks who don't work out, like Justin Fields. If you're going to try to make them into something they're not, which is just a statue in the pocket, they're not going to be good. That's not what makes them good. But if you're going to let them play the way they play, then that's what's going to make them good. And yes, you can say like, hey, he needs to slow down with the running because he's 27 years old now. We don't really know how much longer he's got. Well, then make the most of the time he has because I just don't understand it. So a lot of things there too. I like again the bringing up the fumble by Zay Flowers is also huge. Ball security is job security. Cecil, I know you played high school football. The first rule was never reach for the goal line unless it's a do or die situation like a fourth down or have to get the touchdown or else you lose the game. So just a lot of frustrating fundamentals in this game. All the credit to the Chiefs going to the fourth Super Bowl in 5 years, hoping to win their 3 in 5 years. That would make them a dynasty. We're going to see how that goes. And see, we found out the important news here. Taylor Swift is going to be flying from Japan in her concert on Saturday or something night on Japan to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, and she'll be there like a day before the game. That's what everyone really wants to hear about. And if Usher somehow gets sick, she will fill in as the halftime performer, probably.
Well, thank God.
All right, let's get to the NFC Championship game. This one, I would say, had a lot more interesting play in that the Lions went up early, and it looked like they were going to be able to ice the game because of their ability to run the football so well. I mean, fourth in the league in rushing yards. Jameis Williams had a really nice reverse touchdown to get things started. They were moving the ball really well. Jared Goff was protected. He didn't turn the ball over all game. Then they started going forward on some fourth downs, let some momentum creep back in. Brock Purdy stayed the course. We threw a pass downfield that bounced off Kendall Vildor's face mask, and Brandon Ayuk caught, and that's how the 49ers win games. They kind of come back here. But with a pure talent, Debo looked like he was fine and healthy in this game. George Kittle made a couple key plays. 34-31 is the final score, and it's just not something you thought you would see after the Lions were up by so much in the first half.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was a collapse. It really was, and it's sad to say because we're both fans of Dan Campbell. We're both fans of what this Lions organization's put together this year. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a couple things to unearth here. I think Dan Campbell was a little over aggressive. And yeah, I see how the play design on some of those plays where they're going to convert. Um, the receiver should have caught that pass. Josh Reynolds should have. It was a fourth down, nobody around him. It was a short pass. It wasn't that hard to throw in a ball. He just dropped it. Is the reality. He dropped it on a big, high stakes play. And then obviously, the other fourth down where they could have gotten the 3 points. You know, I agree with Dan Campbell sticking to his guns. Do what got you there. You can't change who you are at this time, and it's easy for us to be revisionists because they didn't convert. But the reality is, he made the right play call. They called the right play, and for 9 times out of 10, that's a conversion that could change the game. I don't agree. If it was me head coaching, I wouldn't have done it. I am a type that would go, the analytics says kick it. It's a playoff game. Points are premium. Let's get the points. Both times, I would have said that that's the smarter thing to do here. Um, but again, I'm not Dan Campbell. I didn't get this team there by going back on what I've done all year, and I respect Dan Campbell for sticking to it. Again, this is all revisionist because I'm going to be honest. Their kicker Patterson hasn't been the best at times either. We're talking about not a very experienced kicker, not someone who's known as a great field goal kicker in a very high pressure situation. There's no guarantee he makes the field goal anyway, right? And that's something, it's not always an automatic. Field goals are not automatic kicks, as we've seen through the playoffs, especially. They're high pressure situations. And I don't agree with his decisions. I do respect that he kept with his guns. A lot of Dan Campbell hate has been out there since this game. I don't want Dan Campbell to stop being him. The reality is the 49ers were a really good team. They managed to take advantage of everything. They had a crazy Brandon Ayuk 50-yard catch to get themselves back into this game. So, the 49ers deserve as much credit of anything. Like, I know everyone wants to say the Lions blew it and they had that big lead, but the reality is the 49ers worked that second half efficiently. They got explosive plays, and they played extremely well. And, they did just as good a job as the Lions failed. So they deserve credit as much as the Lions deserve blame. And I'd say the silver lining to all this is Ben Johnson is going to be back if you're a Detroit Lions fan. I think that's huge because I think after this game, most of us went, Ben Johnson's going to leave, and I don't know where that leaves this Lions team because I love Dan Campbell. I love the rosters they built together, but I don't know what Jared Goff looks like under another play caller. I just don't. I don't know how much of it is Jared Goff is good. I think he's not bad, but I think you put him under a new system all of a sudden, or you promote an assistant. I don't know if it has the same ingenuity. I think Ben Johnson does get a lot of credit for what that offense has become. I think Dan Campbell is an excellent motivator. I think he is a great coach in the very traditional sense, something that's been remiss in this league for a while because everyone just seems they want to call plays and pretend they're coordinator, but also get to be head coach. I don't think it works as well. So I like Dan Campbell can delegate and trust the guys around him, and it sucks that it didn't work out. It really does, but ultimately, Ben Johnson coming back, I'd like to see the Lions get another shot at it next year.
I would too. You built up this team. Last year, you missed the playoffs barely. This year, you go to NFC Championship. Next year, kick the door down. The NFC might be wide open. We saw the Eagles collapse, the Cowboys collapse. The 49ers could have a whole different look next year. You just don't know, especially some of the aging players like Trent Williams on that roster. So I would say too, Cease, I'm cool with him going for it in the third and fourth quarter a lot, especially because you got to think like if you go for it when you're in their territory. First of all, like you said, they don't like the kicker that they have. They even cut him at one point in the season, then brought him back, Michael Badgley. But also you get the field position. You get to keep them on their side of the field. That helps your defense out a little bit. The end of the half, I would have taken the field goal because you don't get the benefit of the team, like of the field position, right? If you don't get it, then the half's over. So that's the only thing I would say. It ended up being a 3-point game, but obviously there was like kind of a garbage time touchdown in there. So just something to think about. I'm usually fine with it too. Go for it. I don't like the people who are always saying take the points. I think everyone dealing in absolute. I don't want to be too much of a Star Wars nerd here because I'm not really that big of a Star Wars guy. But people who deal in absolutes one way or another, like always go for it or always kick the field goal, always take the points. I don't think that's how it should be either. So I respect Dan Campbell. I think he did a fine job with this team. I think he maxed out what they could do next year. Keep that offensive line in place, keeping Ben Johnson in place. Just kind of add to your roster a little bit here. You should have some money to spend. You should have some draft picks to use. They could be very dangerous again next year for sure. All right, let's get to the Super Bowl, Cease. We have the Chiefs and 49ers, and we get 49ers, who probably are the most complete team in the NFL, and then we also have the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. As mentioned before, 4 Super Bowl appearances in the last 5 years for the Chiefs. This would be their third win if they get this one. These two teams played in Super Bowl LIV just a couple of years ago, which is interesting that the 49ers looked like they were going to win this game, and Patrick Mahomes came back on them. So maybe a little bit fuel to the fire here. Kyle Shanahan has a lot of work to do in terms of cementing his Super Bowl legacy after the Falcons debacle, after the 49ers blowing the lead. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, Cease. The 49ers are favored by 2 right now. Who are you going with?
God. I've been thinking about it a lot since the games ended on Sunday. And I'm gonna go. I'm going with the 49ers to win it. I'm gonna split it though. I'm gonna take the Chiefs with the 2 point spread because I think this is gonna be a razor thin game. Either team could win this game. Reasons why: one, Pat Mahomes is the best player, a quarterback we've seen since Tom Brady, which doesn't sound that long ago, but the reality is those are two of the best people to ever do it, and they're right after each other. So Pat Mahomes can do a lot of things. I don't think Pat Mahomes' receiving core is as great this year. Travis Kelsey's turned it back on in the playoffs. But I think the 49ers, I think the linebackers, I think Greenlaw, I think Fred Warner can kind of do some limiting there. I'm not saying a ton, but enough. And then the secondary's got to hold on. But I think the real key here is going to be the 49ers running game. If the 49ers can get Christian McCaffrey going, if they can get Deebo Samuel rolling back there, I think that can be a winning formula. I think that's how this game is going to grade out to. It's going to be, can Christian McCaffrey get this backfield going? Because the Chiefs are horrible against the run. 49ers are going to try to shorten this game, keep the ball out of Brock Purdy's hands as much as you can. Obviously there's going to be situations where you're going to have to throw it, but your strength, it's strength versus weakness here. 49ers are not a great pass. I mean, Brock Purdy's play well, but they're not a pass first team. Chiefs are one of the best passing defenses in the league. Do not get down. If this game is back and forth and it's within a possession all times, I think the 49ers win by the narrowest of margins. But if the Chiefs get up quick and it's the second half and they're up by 10 points going into, the fourth quarter, I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to pull it off. So the 49ers, the key to this game is the 49ers are going to have to get up quick and they're going to have to try to keep it within a possession at all times. Because if they don't, they're not. I just don't see Brock Purdy being able to carry this team and carry this offense. But the problem is, I don't know what the Chiefs' run defense is going to look like either. And it's going to be hard to defend all those weapons, especially when Brock Purdy's just going to throw short little routes. He's not going to let the secondary. I mean, that's fine. If Brandon Ayuk gets shut down, I don't think anyone cares. Deebo Samuels, they can move around in space. George Kittle will be over the middle. And Christian McCaffrey can do anything, basically. So that's going to be the key is Christian McCaffrey. And for that reason, I'm going to pick the 49ers because I just think that they can kind of rally together here at the last minute and the Chiefs won't be able to get the ball as much. I think it's going to be kind of like the Buffalo game when it came to just them running the ball over and over and keeping Pat Mahomes off the field.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs and obviously take the points there too. I think last year I picked the Chiefs too, and it was just like, hey, they have Patrick Mahomes and the other team doesn't. And the disparity is about the same. I mean, Jalen Hurts had a fantastic year last year, but Brock Purdy leads the league in a lot of things too. I don't think the way they have played the last several weeks is sustainable for the 49ers, of getting down early and then playing catch-up all the time. If they do that against the Chiefs will bury them. They've done this before. You're right, it is total contrasting styles here. Like the 49ers, if they ran the ball every down, and I knew they were going to run the ball every down for the whole game, besides like third and longs or something, I might take them because the Chiefs' run defense is bad. It's just, I don't know if Kyle Shanahan will be willing to do that. He likes running the ball. He likes different play designs. Is he going to get discouraged? I don't know. For the Chiefs, that secondary can be taken advantage of. Talanoa Hufanga is out for that secondary. He's been hurt for a long time at safety. Their corners have been defeated pretty much a lot of weeks of the NFL season. I think Mahomes can get things going there. You still have Travis Kelsey in the middle, but you have Rashee Rice who's developed. And even Marquez Valdes-Scantling last week caught a big catch, which was surprising to everyone. But I'm not going to take against the quarterback. This is a quarterback-driven league. You're going to need a literal all-star cast, and they have it. The 49ers are almost perfect in this regard of having an all-star cast. If you don't have a quarterback, they are the team that, like, hey, we've never had a top 10 quarterback throughout our 21st century run here. But they have that all-star team, and that's what we've said. Like, hey, if you save money on the quarterback position, you have to go make this team around them, and they do that. And Brock Purdy's been smart. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs here. If the 49ers get down early, I just don't think it's something they can sustain coming back like they have, and I don't know if they can catch up to the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs with the points. Should be a fun matchup. We have the best quarterback in the league against maybe the best team in the league. We'll see who wins this time around. Cecil, any final thoughts for the week?
Yeah, if you're a 49ers believer this week, Christian McCaffrey MVP odds plus 430 might be something to look into for Super Bowl MVP. Because the reality here is, I don't think it's going to be Brock Purdy. I don't think Brock Purdy's going to throw the ball a bunch. I don't think it's going to go to Brock Purdy. I think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey's going to have a great game. Where he has probably over 120 all-purpose yards, has a touchdown or two. And I think the 49ers win. He's going to be the key to it. So if you want to take him or maybe a key 49ers defensive player, I don't think that's a bad bet. Because the Chiefs win this game, it's going to be Pat Mahomes. So Pat Mahomes is a good – you want to hedge it with a favorite. Last I checked, it was plus 140, plus 130. That's not a bad bet either if you're a big fan of you want to hedge it with the Chiefs and just get your money back basically plus a little bit. But that's a little insider tip for me if you're looking for Super Bowl MVP odds.
That's a good bet. Honestly, either way, even if you think the Chiefs are going to win, just bet the Christian McCaffrey because that's really good odds when you think about winning the MVP of one game when he's had so many touchdowns this year. I'm going to say Travis Kelce wins it though because Taylor Swift's in attendance, and it's not a voting award, but I don't know. I think maybe some people in the press box will be swayed. I don't know. So I also think the Gatorade will be red. Both teams are red. I think that's something to consider here. If the sportsbooks offers it, I don't know. I have to do some research on that and see what the past Chiefs Super Bowls colors were because I have not done that research quite yet. My turn to remind everyone to like and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. As a reminder, we'll be back not next week, but the week after to recap the Super Bowl and talk about whether the Commanders filled their head coaching role and just kind of generally get everyone ready for the offseason. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.